As an equalist, a true free thinker, I don't automatically accept whatever any leadership or elitist tells me. I think for myself. I examine the facts from all sides the best I can and draw my conclusions objectively, not along any standardized ideological lines that are predetermined by any leadership claiming to represent me. The only ideology I follow is the ideology of equalism, non-predation, independent thought, logic, correctly applied empathy, and true common sense. Americans are damn tired of their tax and their consumer dollars going to foreigners, either through foreign economic aid, which only goes to the elite of whatever country it's given to, business and corporate exportation of jobs to foreign countries so profits can be increased through the exploitation and underpaying of foreign labor, through war, which only leads to the increased need for foreigners to immigrate in the first place, or through domestic support of human trafficking of illegal immigrants, either through free legal representation, education and social services that should go to Americans in need, and jobs that illegals accept at lower wages than Americans expect and deserve. If you were poor, or underemployed, a single mother, elderly or disabled, you'd feel absolutely betrayed, marginalized, and dehumanized, that your society's attention, time, money, and resources were going to help a bunch of foreigners rather than yourself and other citizens so desperately in need. And it is an act of betrayal, marginalization, and dehumanization. It's time for these Western nations to get their priorities straight. Your blind and misplaced sympathy is causing a rise of fascism and race hatred that'll lead to nothing but social strife and powerful police states. I actually care about this resurgence of fascist insanity, and I don't want it. And you and the left are the cause of it. For liberals to offer sanctuary to illegals is a slap in the face of American labor, the American consumer, the American taxpayer, and the American poor, and to the illegals themselves who pay human traffickers and remain indebted and enslaved to them for years and even decades, and who face enormous hardship and physical risk to get here. We are not doing them any favors by encouraging illegals to come here. We are in fact putting them in extreme danger even after they arrive. I founded equalism as a strictly anti-fascist philosophy in response to the fascist direction the elite on both the right and left have taken their ideologies. Both sides have anti-fascist elements, so equalism takes those elements, a little from column A and a little from column B, and rejects all the fascism from both columns. When it comes to immigration in general, and illegal immigration specifically, both sides are wrong yet again. The left is wrong because of their position, and the right is wrong because of their stereotypical, prejudicial, and racist defenses of their position. You can support sane and logical immigration policies without basing your position on racism or prejudice. I hold no prejudices, none. As an equalist, the only people I hold any animosity towards are fascists, predators who wish me and others harm, and wish to dominate me and others. I judge people only by their character, and predatory character traits are a threat to me and all of humanity. Supporting a sane and limited immigration policy doesn't make you racist, but supporting the insanity of unfettered immigration does create fascist racism. Each country must first take care of their own, but not at the expense of people in other countries. In other words, A nation's foreign policies shouldn't worsen the lives of those outside that nation, but its domestic policies must first deal with the social conditions of the citizens within that nation. Once a nation resolves its domestic issues, then it has a global obligation to encourage other nations to follow their example. Only then can the borders be brought down and a non-authoritarian global community based upon human rights, individual rights, and social justice be achieved. Never can one nation or any group of nations bear the financial brunt or ethical responsibility of the problems faced by the people of the entire world. And this approach doesn't alleviate the global community's ethical obligation to offer free aid to any nation suffering from environmental crisis or natural disasters, or to refrain from contributing to the domestic turmoil of other countries. There is a difference between a refugee and an immigrant. An immigrant seeks permanent residency, while a refugee seeks temporary refuge from some immediate threat like a natural disaster or political strife. We must accept refugees when they come, but they can't be released into the general population. They must be held separate from society and given all the amenities needed for comfortable survival and then return to their countries when the threat subsides. That's the whole idea behind refuge. It's supposed to be temporary, not permanent. Also, migrant workers are temporary, seasonal migrants, not immigrants, who return to their countries of origin. Migrant workers are a social tradition and should always be welcome. A migrant moves from one place to another and then back again. An immigrant moves to one place and expects to stay. In this way, illegal immigrants are more like invaders than anything else. The left's misstatement that the U.S. is a nation of immigrants is an insult to the West indigenous peoples from whom our European forefathers stole this land. America is a nation of invaders. From Jamestown to the Pilgrims to the great immigrations of the Gilded Age, Europeans have infiltrated and inundated what is now the U.S., not with the intent of free and fair trade, but with the intent of permanent settlement, to conquer, displace, and even exterminate the original and rightful American inhabitants and steal their land. That's called invasion, not immigration. But as things stand now, it's best to think of any country like a home with two occupants, the left and right. Both occupants have equal rights to residency, yet one of those occupants comes along and says they're inviting a new roommate into the home, and the co-occupant has nothing to say about it. Oh, and by the way, this new roommate dresses differently, has a different concept of social ethics and religious rules, and doesn't even speak our language. And the co-occupant has to share their food and jobs and give the new roommate an education and medical care. Is there any wonder this causes a conflict and even hatred towards the new roommate by the co-occupant? When you look at it objectively, the left is being just as fascist on this issue as the right. The leftist leadership's position on the immigration issue is creating an increase in race hatred and fascism they claim they're trying to prevent. Regardless of the lies your leadership may tell you, if what you're doing is having the opposite effect of your intentions, then logic dictates you stop what you're doing. If you take an action to stop hatred, but find your action is increasing the very hatred you're trying to stop, then you're supposed to cease whatever action you're taking. The left's position on immigration is causing harm and hatred towards those immigrants. So it's damn time you on the left begin to re-examine your immigration position. Not only has the left's immigration position created more fascism, it has abandoned its traditional support for the American disenfranchised, the poor, the and underemployed, labor and unions, the elderly and disabled. Immigration hurts American labor by flooding the workforce and lowering wages and removing benefits. Didn't you know that adding to the labor pool decreases the value of labor? And illegal immigration hurts the American poor by taking jobs and taking public assistance meant for the American poor. The American legal industry is even more likely to represent illegal immigrants for free than American citizens who can't afford the outrageous standard legal fees. Your first priority must be your own country, your own community, your neighbor. Instead of offering aid and sanctuary to invaders and foreigners who don't even have a right to be here, why not demand sanctuary for the disenfranchised and abused among the co-citizens you already have? You're not going to claim the threat of rape or gang violence is a legitimate excuse for sanctuary for foreigners. If so, we'd have to admit about 1 billion people into our country. Unfortunately, we can't help every living person on the planet who faces hardship and terror. We have millions of Americans who face the threat of rape and gangs every day, and we don't help them. Where's their sanctuary? They can't even receive sanctuary in their own country. If I see a person outside my window being attacked, but know for a fact someone is being attacked across town, who am I obligated to help? If you ignore the person who needs your help right in front of you in favor of the person across town, you're demonstrating predatory and apathetic citizenship. How a bunch of rich, white, fascist neoliberals could convince so many truly sincere and good-hearted people that the concerns of foreigners should take precedent over their own neighbors, their own communities, their own co-citizens is beyond me. Here's an idea. Instead of offering sanctuary to people who have no right to even be here, how about creating sanctuary cities for the American homeless, the American poor, the disabled and elderly, the American renter being abused by their landlord, or the worker being screwed by their employer, or who can't unionize without making their union leadership rich? Right now, European countries are dismantling their wonderful, by American standards, social programs because their open-door immigration policies are causing an overabundance of stress on their economies. And these insane policies are creating a sweeping rise in fascist sentiment. So just imagine the impact this insanity is having on the American system, where fascism and racism are already more prevalent and the social safety net's much weaker than in Europe. No national system can absorb the responsibility of taking in the entire world's oppressed through unlimited and irresponsible immigration, and expect to maintain any semblance of a cohesive and functional society. We have enough poor and enough gangs in the U.S. We don't need more. The left want to increase gangs and gang membership that terrorize people on a daily basis. They want to decrease wages and benefits by increasing labor competition and adding stresses on our educational system and social services. We don't even take care of the citizens we already have in this country. And the left want to add to our nation's disenfranchised, abused, and ignored? And among the illegal immigrants, there is the criminal element to consider. They've already declared themselves willing to break the law just by their presence here. So just how many of them are victims of human traffickers, or are escaping justice in their country of origin, or representing a gang organization and agenda when they illegally cross that border? Even many legal immigrants abhor the illegals who arrogantly bypassed the rigorous requirements they had to meet to become legal citizens of this country. The elite use poverty, and underemployment, and immigration, both legal and illegal, as reminders to American labor that if they rebel or complain, they can be easily replaced with millions of others just waiting in the slave pool for their jobs, just waiting for the opportunity to be American slaves and oppress other Americans for the benefit of the elite. These immigrants are already taking jobs that enforce my oppression. They come over here and then tell me what I can and cannot do. I was born here, but they act like my damned boss. It's bad enough when fascist Americans pull this crap, but when a foreigner who doesn't even speak English very well enforces my oppression, enforces the will of my oppressors, it only adds insult to injury. It's a damned humiliation no citizen should have to endure. How would they like it if I went to their country and took their jobs and started bossing them around? They wouldn't like it. It's the left's crazy position on immigration that's creating a rise in fascism and race hatred, and even led to the placing of a criminal like Trump into the White House. Trump isn't president. He won no honest legal election, but he's being allowed to pretend to be president because he's an elitist, and because of his appeal to the irrationality of fascism and the social divisions he perpetuates and intensifies. Immigrants, not even illegal ones, are not the cause of all our problems. They are a symptom of a dysfunctional society, a dysfunctional authority, a dysfunctional elite that could have prevented this problem from ever becoming as insane as it has. They could have fixed this problem decades ago, but refused to. They refused because both the liberal and conservative elite use this issue to control us and divide us, while in fact it should unite us. It would actually unite any rational people. No rational person wants a flood of immigrants to invade their country, nor do they wish anyone to violate the immigration laws that allow at least an orderly and planned small influx of new and welcomed citizens ready and willing to assimilate to its culture and language. Our elite want us irrational because it uses our irrationality to manipulate and divide us for the benefit of the elite. Why do you think immigration laws have gone unenforced the last 80 years? It's because illegal immigration creates social divisions and animosity. And keeping the citizens divided and fighting each other keeps us from uniting against our true common enemy, the elite. Immigration enforces the police state because it divides the citizenry, and the immigrants take jobs that enforce the elitist will, elitist oppression. Many immigrants become the soldiers, the police, the private security, the management, and the bureaucrats that protect the predators from their prey. Immigration also hurts many immigrants. Through this division, they're causing the rise in fascism. They increase prejudice and bigotry. They take the slave jobs rejected by Americans. They're politically exploited by the elite on the left and right, and they often turn to predatory acts, gangs, and crime to survive. Lastly, if they can't speak the language, they cause miscommunication, stress, and frustration, and are separated from the rest of society. As a result, many refuse to assimilate and retreat into voluntarily segregated communities. As an equalist, I understand immigration is not a racial issue. It's not. I feel much sympathy for many of these people regardless of where they come from. But my nation can't do anything for these people. It can only offer bigotry, slavery, and stress, the same thing my country offers me and the rest of the American poor and working class. And they can offer nothing for my country but a rise in fascism, racism, social divisions, and increased competition for the sparse social resources the lower classes are already fighting over for their own survival. Stop playing the elitist game. You on the left, stop defending the non-existent rights of non-citizens, the unfettered invasion of foreign workers and poor at the expense of the living conditions of your own co-citizens. And you on the right, stop defending your anti-immigrant position on fascist principles and racism. We need a revolution of thought. We can't keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. We must change our approach and strategies. As for legal immigration, all we can do is pressure our government to further restrict access and accept our new citizens, and treat them with the respect deserving any other citizen. But when it comes to illegal immigration, we must demand the laws be enforced, and anyone encouraging the illegals or offering them support or sanctuary are doing a disservice to the illegals themselves and American labor and the poor. Everyone on the left and right, stop. Think for yourselves and stop blindly following your elitist leadership. As an equalist, a true free thinker, I don't automatically accept whatever any leadership or elitist tells me. I think for myself. I examine the facts from all sides the best I can and draw my conclusions objectively, not along any standardized ideological lines that are predetermined by any leadership claiming to represent me. The only ideology I follow is the ideology of equalism, non-predation, independent thought, logic, correctly applied empathy, and true common sense. As an American equalist, it's my obligation to unite American non-predators against their slave masters, and encourage the equalists, the non-predators, in other countries to unite their co-citizens to achieve the same objective. Once the equalists of separate countries gain control of their respective countries, then international unity becomes possible. The global equalist community must give moral support and encouragement to one another and share strategies. But our immediate responsibilities lie in our own countries, with our own people first. Then, as equalism spreads, borders come down and humanity will finally be and live as one, as it was always meant to. Hey, you on the left, want to end the rising tide of fascism and race hatred? Change your position on immigration to something reasonable that promotes the health and safety of your society. Hey, you on the right, want to stop this illegal invasion and reform our current immigration laws? Stop defending your position on fascist principles, ethnic and religious stereotypes, and race hatred. Hey, if either of you want a better world, then revolt against the fascist elite on both sides, who not only use the issue of immigration to manipulate and divide us, but also who dictate the domestic policies that destroy the lives of Americans and dictate the foreign and military policies that destroy lives around the world. Remember, Only equalism offers justice to every living soul on earth. Hey, you non-predators on the left and right, unite through equalism and resist, refuse, revolt.